IntellectualRadio.com. Feed your brain.
Feed me now.
Okay, yeah.
To the Batmobile. Let's go.
Atomic batteries to power.
No, I like
Turbines
that.
to speed.
I like that drum. Come right in. Ready that. Yeah. Always knowing to improve.
These niggas think it ain't crazy out here. Now bounce. Y'all gotta pardon me tonight. Like a superhero up in here. When it's been, they gotta hit him, gotta get him like new shit. They call me Batman, cause the black mask is on my face.
Hey, and welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. And for most of you, if you're trying to, just a little correction, if you're trying to locate my show, it's Rohn, R-O-H-N. R-O-H-N. Hey, I hope everybody had a really good week this week. We had a lot of interesting things go on and go down here in the city. First thing I want to jump into is this election here in the city of Chicago that we had last week, which was last Tuesday. This was a complete carnival, a circus. We had 19 candidates running. So when you have that many individuals running, you're going to have eventually what they call a runoff, which means that the top two vote getters are going to square off in the general election, which is April 2nd. And I think we had a lot of that throughout as far as the mayor's race is concerned in the city of Chicago, and the aldermanic races and a couple of college suburbs. They're having runoffs also in a couple of northern suburbs, western suburbs, and southern suburbs. And they're having a bunch of runoffs. Now, one of the races maybe two of the races that I'm actually keeping my eye on is the one for the city of Chicago, which is for mayor. Okay, right now we have, which is a first, we have two black women who are vying for that fifth floor job. Two black women, Lori Lightfoot, who was head of IPRA, or the Independent Police Review Board or association, or basically she was the individual looking into the oversight committee into police misconduct. And you have Tony Preckwinkle, who is the county board president. Now, what is interesting about these two individuals, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, okay, but what is interesting about these two individuals, not only are they black, not only are they women, are they minority women, but that this will be the second time that a black person will sit in the mayor's chair on the fifth floor, and this will be the first time that it's a black in the history of the city of Chicago that is going to be a woman. Now, I'm just going to go down a couple of names of people who completely got ass raped on this election, and I'm talking about people like Jerry Chico, Gary McCarthy. Gary McCarthy wound up getting 7% of the votes. 7%. Willie Wilson came in fourth. Willie Wilson had 30%, and that is a huge improvement for this man. Then third place was Bill Daley. But right now people do not want another Daley. They make that let's make that clear. They do not want another Daley. The other thing is that there are a couple of runoffs in the automatic wards. A couple of people. There's some people. There's going to be a new face in City Hall here in the city of Chicago. Here in the city of Chicago, it's going to be new faces. It's going to be a new mayor. It's going to be new automatic individuals. There's some that's going to retain their seats. So one of the guys that I'm actually surprised who retained his seat with all the media, all the brouhaha going around him, and the federal indictment that he's facing, and this guy is the longest sitting alderman. This guy was an alderman. In fact, he got grandfathered in when his old man vapor locked and dropped dead. Basically, they gave him his father's seat, and that is Edward Burke, who was head of the finance committee. He's no longer that, but this guy got in '67, and he's been an alderman for the 14th ward since 1967. Now, if this was never a cry for term limits, this would be it. Term limits. And there are a lot of other a lot of other townships that have put that on their referendum as for term limits. The city of Chicago is slowly but surely trying to work their way into that. Okay, good luck on that. But one of the things that Lori Lightfoot, the candidate Lori Lightfoot, is trying to do is that he's trying to break up machine politics, break that up, in which right now she has a very good chance of doing that. Tony Prickwinkle, not so much, because the problem is Tony Prickwinkle is part of the Democratic machine. She's part of the machine that continues to go on. Just today, I saw them run an ad, and this is from supporters of Prickwinkle. They ran basically, and this is one of the reasons why I follow politics, but I'm not an advocate of how it's being done. And when you're getting into politics, there's a lot of mudslinging. And make no mistake, your dark shadows, your skeletons in the closets, your dirty drawers gonna come out, and they're gonna air them. Make no mistake, that is going to happen. That is going to happen. Now, the other thing that's really going to be surprising to a lot of people is that these two women, they are advocates of the gay community. Now, it is speculated that one, if not both, women are lesbians or gay. I should say they're gay. It is speculated, but that's the other topic that they're saying will be a first. Okay, this person will be the first openly gay mayor serving. Well, here in the city of Chicago, because there are open gay governors, there are open gay mayors. They're open. This is the thing that I personally have a problem with, because if that's if that's your flavor of the day, if that is your flavor of the week, that's your business. I don't need to know about it. Nobody needs to know about it. I don't want to know about it. But like I said, we're not going to spend too much time on that. But this is where we are with this election. So April 2nd is when all bets are off. We're going to find out who's going to be what and where they're going to be. This is when we're going to find all this out. Now, to get into what our topic of tonight is going to be, our discussion, and this topic might hurt a couple of people's boo-boos, but these are things that we need to talk about. We need to discuss. So we can get a better understanding on who we are and the direction that we're going, and how we can get there. What do we need to do? Okay, and when I say that, in the title, the title of this topic or tonight's show is going to be called "Our Role." Our Role. That's OUR Role. ROLE/relationship. We need to understand our position. We need to understand what our duties are, what our jobs are. It's not just some dude just laying around the house expecting somebody else to bring the money in, or vice versa. Somebody, the female, just laying around the house, not doing anything, not cooking, not cleaning, not keeping herself together, not doing this, not doing that, and expecting this man to bring in the bread. Everybody has a job. Everybody has a job, and I'm gonna start from the very, very tippy top. The very top. the first thing we need to do is work with our men, and so they can understand what they're what understand what being a man is. That doesn't mean that you're a man by gender. That means that you are a man by the things that you say and you do. That you have to be a person who knows how to produce, who knows how to harvest, who knows how to gather, who knows how to interact with others, particularly your significant other. Particularly, and I use the term significant other because I want it to be a broad scope, and that would cover off and on relationships. That would cover a solidified relationship, meaning that there is that you all are in a committed relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or that you are married. So that way it's considered it's covering all the aspects. And to a certain degree, when you refer to someone as your significant other, there's a certain level of admiration that you're showing, that you are indicating, that you are implying for this individual. Now, just to now, I'm a sidebar for a moment, and I don't think I've ever told anyone this story, but I can laugh at this right now, and I think my engineer, she's going to get a kick out of this story when I say it. Okay. Um, in when I decided to get married, for most people, you all know that I was married at one time. Now, when I decided to get married, and one, I didn't know a lot about this person. That was one thing. I was um 22, 23 at the time. But at that age, you think you know everything. You think you know the world. You think you have you're an idealist. You have a solution to each and every problem, and that you see, and we visually see the things, we see the flaws, we see these things, but we tend to kind of look the other way because we're thinking idealistically, I can change this person because I figure, because you're thinking, hey, I'm a good person. I do things in a manner. I do things orderly. I'm doing these things. So you figured that this person would catch on. They want to be part of this. So I took it upon. So we decided that we were going to get married. Okay. And so we went through the whole process. We went through, I got my guys. There were five of us, for my brides, for my groomsmen. She did her thing with her bridesmaids and stuff like that. I'm telling you, we went the whole 9 yards. We had the limos, we had the church, we had all of this stuff. And you're thinking, okay, if you had all this stuff, what could possibly go wrong? When you start to delve into this. But anyway, I'm gonna get to that on what went wrong. So, as most families do, you're gonna have a little rift. One family don't The families didn't get what I failed to recognize is that the families didn't get along. My family didn't get along with her family, and vice versa. But yet still, we're ramping up to this big wedding. We're ramping up, man. We're ramping it up, and we're going for it. So the day of the wedding, I will never forget this as long as I live. June 10th, 1989. This is roughly 31 years ago. My son wasn't even born yet when this uh, fiasco took place. Now we get to the wedding. We pull up. Everybody's there. Everybody's ready to go, and one of my groomsmen doesn't show up. Remember now, tensions are building because we have two families that do not get along, don't get along. So one of my groomsmen didn't was late and had some excuse on what and why, blah blah blah. So one of the bridesmaids made a comment and it seemed to escalate from there. It escalated. So one of the bridesmaids made a comment to one of my groomsmen. The groomsmen cursed out one of the bridesmaids. The bride cursed out my best man, and it took all, and it started as then when by this time the parents were downstairs, and this point some of the bridesmaids were cursing out my parents and vice versa. It escalated into this made for TV show that you never would ever imagine would happen. Now mind you, I'm on the other side of the church waiting to go upstairs with my guys, and all of a sudden I hear, oh my gosh, it's a fight, a fight, a fight, a fight. Yes, I kid you not, people, this is a true story. A fight breaks out. As they say, you know what? Hey, what happened? I went to a fight and a wedding broke out. So the fight, I kid you not, had to have been at least at that time, with the people that we had, it was like 250 people. And the fight breaks out, and we got the bridesmaids and her family and her brothers fighting my people, and my brothers fighting their people. And the fight literally carried up the stairs. I've never seen a fight go up the set of stairs, past the sanctuary, and out the door into the street. Yes, went out into street. I kid you not. I kid you not. I cannot make this up. And see, I can laugh about this now, because you look at it, because there were certain things that I saw that there were red flags that I chose not to do. And sometimes we tend to do that because we have this idealistic idea of what we want to do. But to finish the story, it carried all the way out to the street, to the point where it got so big that we shut down traffic, both lanes. We shut down traffic for 2 miles in both directions. Traffic was shut down from I-94 to the west of us to I-94 to the east of us to I-57 to the west of us. People actually thought this was a movie being filmed, because state police came, CPD came, sheriffs came, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. Needless to say, a couple of people did get arrested. Now that's the exciting part. Here's the part that's shameful, and this is on me. And I'll be the first one to take, and I take heat for this, but this was on me. At the end of all of this, do you know I still wind up marrying this fool? And maybe I shouldn't say it like that, but I still wind up marrying this woman, because at that point in time, we have the idea that we love this person. And this is sometimes we kind of get lost. We kind of get things lost in translation. And it's kind of hard not to tell a story without a little bit of resentfulness, but you want to try to remain fair and impartial to the other party. You want to try and do that, and I'm trying. But yeah, I still wind up because you're still thinking, hey, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. That's not always true, people. You got to understand the level. You have to understand the aspects of any and all relationships. On certain things there's certain things that you can work through, but then you have to start looking at everything overall. If a person is constantly telling you certain things, that means that, hey, I need to work on this. They're not telling you to be picking on you, and we have to understand that sometimes they're telling you these things in forms of constructive criticism. Now, mind you, people told me, don't do this. This is not in your best interest. But it was just a lot deeper than that. But I wind up still marrying this woman. I sure did. I stood there before 5 people, a preacher, and said, I do. She said, I do. And we went on. Now, after that, we still had a procession, but this had actually made it and this had actually crossed several barriers as far as law enforcement is concerned. We got a police escort. I kid you not. We got a police escort from our location to the reception area. We had to pass through 6 jurisdictions, and each jurisdiction, their police met us at each crossing. Yes, because they heard this what they call citywide. And so when they got there, so once we got to our location where the reception was, and Johnny Law comes out, and he tells me, he says, if there anything should happen in my town, in my city, you're going to be the first person we lock up. This is exactly what they told to me, because they're there. Because why? I bear the level of responsibility, because see, this is the part about when you are a man, you bear a heavy load. You bear a lot of responsibility. So a lot of things wind up coming down on you. And so the same thing is that when you are with a woman and she's not uh 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 um for lack of a better word, I won't say compliance, because that's, you're not, you have a human being and not a dog. A dog complies if you beat it long enough. You want an individual to work with you. You want to be able, you all have to you have to cooperate. You have to learn to cooperate and not be competitors. And sometimes this is where I go back to the part to where, and and to end the story. Yes, we wind up having a reception. It was pretty good, but 10 years later, we wind up divorcing 10 years later. But that was due to a lot of different things that was happening in the marriage. The red light for most people, and correct me if I'm wrong, people, the red light for most people would have been the fight at the wedding. That would have been, for most people, that's right. That's a no-brainer. That's the deal. Right. That's a deal. That's a deal breaker for most people. But it's so fun, and truth, and I can't, to this day. It was said that it was in the Jet magazine. Yes, the Jet magazine, and both the Sun Times and the Tribune. Someone actually had this article. I can't find it to this day, but I believe that it was because it was such a big thing. When you have traffic shut down in both directions for 2.5 miles, that's you. There's. I'm surprised we didn't make the news. I really am. But in order for it to work, people, everyone has to understand their role, and we have to stop. And I'm referencing us as black people, as black men and black women. We have to stop competing with one another. We're not in. Years ago, we weren't competitors. We were partners. We shared the same. It wasn't saying that she was our equal. No, she wasn't. But she was our counterpart to making sure that things ran accordingly when the man was away. And we've gotten away from that to such a degree to where some women feel that they need to compete. I have to compete. Which means, and when I say compete, I'm referencing when you say something, there's a rebuttal or there is a response when it's not necessary. You all are trying to you're trying to work together. If you are doing everything that you're supposed to be doing inside this relationship, then there's no need to compete. If you know your man, that he is going to make sure that all of your needs and wants are met, and he's going to and he's working to the best of his ability, then how hard is it for you to make sure that his needs are met, but you are doing you are doing the things that are needed and necessary? We have to understand, sometimes we get lost in translation and say, well, I want to be a wife. Well, you got to ask yourself the question. First of all, do I have what it takes? Do I understand? Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that right now. Scratch that. Not have what it takes. Because see, that's a level of, that's now you're competing. You're thinking about maybe people in his past life, the women in his past life, or even that man, or for women, for even that man in, you're thinking about that woman in his past life, and some men are thinking about, and vice versa. This is where we get into the part where we're competing. I want to do, okay, because that's the baby mama. I feel that I have to do a lot. No, no, no. You got to understand. See, there's the part where you have to understand your place and your role. Not everybody can't be number one, but you have to fully understand that when this man has children by another woman, or other women, you have to understand where your role is, sweetie. And if this man if he's any kind of man, and you see that he takes care of, you see that he is taking care of his children, he is seeing to their needs and wants, regardless to what the relationship is between him and the baby mama. See, sometimes I say this in a rhetorical type of way. You got to understand that it's not necessarily that she's going to always be first, but she's going to be, she happens to be a priority because they have this connection. You have to understand that there is a connection. This is not to diminish those who are with someone and they don't have children together. This is not to diminish that, and vice versa with men. You have to understand that her responsibility is to that child, and when she and that baby's father converse on business, and mind you now, converse on business, and that is concerning that child, that's not for you. You might feel that you should be first. No, you're not. They are the first priority. That's understanding what your role is, understanding your place, understanding that you have to come. We have to look beyond our own. We have to look beyond our own inner feelings and emotions and saying, "This is what I want," or "I wish." It doesn't work that way. We don't live uh, in that type of world or environment. We don't. I myself have 6 children, and they are a priority. Now, when I interact now with interacting with their mothers, there is a level, there's an understanding. There is an understanding. Hey, our conversation or our interaction is strictly business. Strictly business. Hey, welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Ron. Who do I have on the phone, and where are you calling from?
This is Jay from Georgia.
What's happening in Georgia? All right, sit back, relax, and hunker and strap it down, because he finna bust your head, y'all. Guaranteed.
So, let's kind of slow it up a little bit. You're talking about roles in the relationship, roles in particular, dynamics. But I think it would probably be better suited to, instead of using the term roles, because we have to understand that words have meanings, words have preconceived notions and connotations, both positive and negative. I think probably a better way to expound upon this principle would be to establish designations. So when you use the term designations lays out a hierarchy without placing any diminishing factors or connotations or implications. Okay?
Okay.
So, prime example of that is king, queen, prince, princess, duke,
Duchess,
earl, knight, esquire, gentleman. Okay? And so each one of those, they are roles. That is correct. But they're more importantly designations. And the designation is important because it defines both the limits and the responsibilities and the duties that fall within those designations. So the designation helps us, for lack of a better term, not overreach our bounds. It keeps a balance to both the higher and upper limits of my office. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So much like when you're having a conversation about people who want to get married, who want to do this and do that, I often tell them, you are not fit for that title until you can be submissive and obedient to the office. Many times people will disqualify themselves because the word submissive and obedient immediately turns on a rebellious connotation in their mind. Immediately. Without understanding that even in a biblical principle, obedience and submission is an absolute requirement.
That is
It
correct.
doesn't mean that you do not have power. It means that you are exercising such great discipline and trust within the bounds of your designation that you will comply and give all of your effort diligently, without reservation, to the cause of the higher office. That might have been a little too far over people's heads, so I'll make it simpler. People always like to say and use the verse, God is the head, Christ is
The bride.
right under him, and so should the husband be the head, and
Wife.
well, I'm saying it wrong. So God is the head, and Christ rules under him. Same thing with the husband and the wife. The husband is the head, and the wife is the bridegroom. So, in simplest terms, that means that this entity has to submit and comply or be obedient to whatever the will and pleasure is of the higher designation. See, this sounds very good until you actually have to apply it, which is where most problems tend to arise. You're talking about roles, you're talking about structure. Well, the first part of any of that is understanding the designation and being comfortable with that designation because you've had a very thorough conversation and, most importantly, an understanding of both the accountability and duties of both designations. Instead of functioning like a bunch of cohabitating nomads, which is really what most people are doing. If you don't understand that concept, look at where we are. We're in tax season. So many people moving and shaking and doing all this other stuff. And I guarantee you, by the time Easter's done, the post office is going to be full of change of address slips. Why? Because we're operating in a cohabitating nomad function instead of having full disclosure into an understanding of how the designations, and I keep saying that word, the designations give us the liberties within our own office. Now, I heard you say a little early in the show, there was a situation where you went to a fight and a wedding broke out. Very funny. Love that. Love that term. But here's what's interesting, where even without removing your own blame into it, because you do bear some responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
We all do. But here's another factor of how designations fail us within our own circle of people. And maybe I missed it, So I'll give you the opportunity to rebut it. But at what point, if any, did the very officiating pastor discuss or give the option to maybe reconsider this? Or maybe circle back around this after things had died down? Was that ever offered or given you as an option at that time, at that date? Was that? It was. Please, I mean, correct me if I missed
something. You asked it, and that is a very good question. That's a very poignant question. And as I said at the top, yes, I bear some of the responsibility, and I'll be the first one to, and I'm the first online to take that, because because of how I operate and the way that I operate and the structure that I have. But no, I will tell you this. No, at no point in time did the officiating pastor come and say, let me separate you two. I need to talk to him by himself. I need to talk to her by herself. And then I'm going to talk to the both of you and say, maybe you all need to reconsider, because there is a lot of things going on. This is not something that, and I'm speaking and I'm speaking in a third party connotation. No, at no point in time did that conversation ever come up, or even did he say, I think you all need to reconsider, because this just doesn't happen on a whim. People just don't lose their marbles on something like this. This is something, and as I indicate, this is something that had been building and had reached a fever pitch.
Sure.
But no, to answer your question, short answer is no. No, I was just saying.
Which means that you were not given proper spiritual counsel from someone who actually is supposed to navigate that sort of dimension, which further goes into a misplacement of the roles and responsibilities in which we're speaking. So there was a failure there, because here it is, you're dealing with potentially some level of discernment that you did not have, that he was supposed, or he or she was supposed to have.
Correct.
They did not exercise it, or probably were not even conscious of it, which means technically you have someone who should have been a master of his skill, but really was no more than a hireling of the skill. And for those who don't understand the term hireling, a hireling is basically a stand-in. So I can't be here every single day to do all of the duties and responsibilities. And incidentally, that term comes from farming and shepherding.
Right.
Okay? A farmer or a shepherd, when their flocks had exceeded the amount of actual people that he had within his clan to properly herd that population, he would contract hirelings, which was basically on contract, on call people as needed to help him superintend the limited duties necessary to contain and move this flock. No, that's a roundabout way of saying it, but that's really that's their definition. A hireling is someone that you hire as a stand-in to help you facilitate a task or a group of tasks that has exceeded your normal reach of obligation. So I will say this in two parts. As it relates to roles and designations, as I call it, the first thing is, and I've said this several times before, we have to have a proper indoctrination of what is in order. Then we have to have people who are competent within their designation to properly superintend the duties of that office. See, and until we do that, then these problems continue to cascade up and down the ladder because there's multiple points of failure. Multiple points of failure. Now, that's not to remove personal accountability and personal responsibility, not at all. But you are only as sharp or as competent as the smartest person and the dumbest person within your circle. That's not my opinion. That's a known fact. You can only go as high as the smartest person that you associate with.
That is true. That's very true. There's an old saying, how can I soar with the eagles when I'm surrounded by chickens?
Sure, but here's the problem. Why do you keep hanging around chickens? Because chickens don't fly. And number two, all chickens do is peck around and, excuse my French, eat shit.
It's exactly right. I mean, that
all they do.
Right. And that plays. And I'm going to say this. You're absolutely, and you have a point there to where if you have this and this is indicative of sometimes the relationships that we wind up finding ourselves in, because sometimes we are our own worst enemy when it comes to relationships, because we know what we are, we know what we do, we know what we are. And if we consider ourselves the eagles, then like you said, why in the world are we hanging around chickens? A flightless bird. It's not going to happen. And to a certain degree, this is we have to start looking at these things and evaluating ourselves and evaluating sometimes the people that we are with or associating with.
Here's another tidbit. The other problem of hanging with chickens is chickens are birds of prey.
Explain, please elaborate on that, because I think that
which means that chickens are not birds that will ever be dominators, but they will be dominated consistently every day. These are birds that have no level of flight skill. These are birds that have no ability to get within or without a certain vertical and or horizontal limitation, and are subject at any point in time to be part of some species' food chain. That's just what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the reason why you continue to be in a perpetual path of problems or a perpetual path of failure is maybe you're not a predatory bird. Maybe you are the prey instead of the predator. Way, way too deep on that. I'm going to back out of that. Bottom line is designations and having a thorough understanding of how they superintend and support each other. They're not competing with each other. They support and supplement or complement each other. I think that's the better word. Because to say supplement means that there's something lacking. No, They complement. I would say that's probably the most important thing, is that there needs to be less of a demand to supplement derogatory behavior and more of an expectation to be complements so that things can be built and moved forward. You cannot build a house with strictly bricks. You cannot build a house with strictly mortar. It takes the combined effort of both of them so that brick and the mortar can set within the defined designation of a foundation to build a wall and build a house. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Georgia. Like I say it all the time. When this cat calls in, you better be prepared, because he's going to say something that's just going to blow your wig back. And I do mean blow it back. Because we have to fully understand. See, first of all, we have to start educating ourselves. And that begins with self-education. We have to start with the way that our dialect. We have to work there with our dialect, meaning for those who are still slow, who still are haven't caught on when I say dialect, our vocabulary. Vocabulary. When he went on to say, and as Georgia went on to say, the thing here is that they complement each other. Complement. You cannot stress that enough. Complement each other, not compete with each other, but complement. If you are with someone, ladies, if you are with someone and people know it, you are a representative of him. That's like the president and the vice president. If when the vice president goes abroad, or whether he goes someplace domestic or abroad, he is a representative of the president. That means if he gets out there and he says something stupid or foolish or acts a fool, they're going to look at the president. They're going to look at the person that is at the top and saying, you got this jackass out in front like this. This is, and that was a very good, that's a better word. That's a very good point. A very good word that he used, designation. And when he went down the line of succession, each party has a designated part. The same thing with men, women, and children. The man has a designated part. The woman has a designated part. The children have a designated part. And once we grasp that understanding of what this terminology means, and opposed to, like I said before, where you got eagles consorting with chickens, this is what's going to happen. An eagle is a predator. The chicken is a bird of prey. A bird of prey, which means that it fits somewhere in the food chain. No type of self-defense mechanisms whatsoever. And then when you have two birds, and even with even the beast of the field, we have to understand that we as human beings, men and women, we tend to lack certain capabilities to understand the difference. Understanding our place, understanding where we need to be, and understanding when the best way I could describe this, the Lion King is a prime example of the chain of basically, like a better word, the chain of command, where everybody fits, where everybody belongs. The male, he is the king of the pride. Then you have the lioness, believe it or not, the lionesses, they are the ones that actually protects the cubs and the male. They know their role. They know their duties. They know these things. If you want to understand how that works, watch lions and lions do what they do. That's the best example. And if you've ever ever seen The Lion King, and I can't believe that some of you haven't, unless you've been living under a rock for 30 years. This was Mufasa he explained the line. And this is the same way that we have to do within ourselves. We have to, once we sit down and we explain the line, then you know what your duties are. You know what your roles are. You know what the designation is. And the key word in that is designation, meaning this is a specific spot that you hold, a specific office that you are responsible for. Because when he went down the line and you have a princess, or you have a prince or a princess or a duke or duchess who is from that king's line, get out of pocket, they're not looking at them. They're looking at the king, because everything starts with him. Everything starts with him. With him. But in the distance, you all like see the helicopters are in the air. So that usually means that is my cue. That is my time here on iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. I know I didn't catch y'all at the bottom of the hour, but we had to. Sometimes we get into our topics and we kind of run over, and then and you just don't want to cut off a caller when he's trying to make it, when he or she is trying to make their point. So if you have a comment. You have a comment or you have a suggestion for a show, leave it on our voicemail at 872-267-1381. That's 872-267-1381. And leave us and for this particular show, you want to leave a comment for the Chronicles of Rohn. That's ROHN. If you have an idea for a show. Nubian Beauty of Hair. Check out their website. Check out their website at luxuryhairdirect.com//Nubian or dot. And remember, put the dot at the end of that. My man Alex over at Captain Hooks. Captain Hooks. If you all are hungry, get your booties over to Captain Hooks, 85th and Cottage Grove, 103rd and King Drive, and 15922 South Kedzie in Markham. Hey, that's it here. And in closing, not my monkey, not my circus. See y'all next week.
Feed your brain.
Got to coordinate. It's about that time.
IntellectualRadio.com.
Feed your brain. To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. Roger. Ready to move out.